Okay.
Wait.
Huh?
Yeah.
This,
I don't know where I'm going right
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing?
that's an amazing combination.
now. Yeah. Shalom, shalom, Israel. As we on camera, camming up right now, I want to say shalom to other brothers and sisters worldwide, teaching the information, the knowledge of the Most High, the scriptures, keeping the Bible, keeping the commandments. Different camps that are trying to stay focused on feeding the people with the scriptures and the wisdom of the Most High. We're going to go in this class called Reversing the Curses. Shashwan's he's occupied at the moment, but this is his class. But, show love to Houston, show love to East Coast brothers out there doing the work, Guatemala. We're going to get this going. Of course, Virginia. Real quick, get Isaiah 34, verse 16. Isaiah 34 and verse 16. Then Ephesians 3 and 4.
Isaiah chapter 34, verse 16.
Uh-huh.
When you're ready.
Let's go.
He shall dwell on high.
34 and 16, Isaiah 34, 16.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
And that's the common focus. The common focus for us as a nation is to get the mind of the Most High. If we're creating the Most High's image like Genesis 1:26, if I'm creating the image of the Most High and you're creating the image of the Most High, then we have to have some type of something to hold on to grasp onto, to trace and continue to mold ourselves to be like the Father. All right? And the image of the Most High is his mentality, his mind. Because the Most High is a spirit, right?
Come.
All right, read on.
No one of these shall fail.
No one of the laws, statutes, commandments, or instructions that are written in the Bible fail. Why is that? Because or the prophecies. And why is that? Because the Most High created this world. The Most High framed the world with the scriptures. Real fast, St. John 1 and 1. And then we'll go to this point. St. John 1 and 1.
St. John chapter 1 and verse 1.
Because we got into these curses by going away from the scriptures. We got into these curses by deviating from the scriptures. So going back to the scriptures is how we reverse the curses. Going back to the Most High's likeness. Going back to the Most High's image. Going back to the Most High's mind frame. Going back to seeking the Most High versus not seeking the Most High. You got it, sir? St. John 1 and 1?
Yeah. In the beginning was the Word.
In the beginning was the Word. Read.
And the Word was with the Most High.
The Word was with the Most High. So who's with the Most High? The Word. The Word is what? Yahweh Shai, Christ. Right? Some call him Yeshua, but I call him Yahweh Shai. So this Christ, who we're created to be in his image, but we had to seek out the glory and do what? Read. Real quick, back to Isaiah 34:16. I have to go back to connecting myself to the book in order to get out of my conditions or my situations that are what? Curses. The word curse means an undesirable condition or undesirable circumstance. All right? You got that right there?
Isaiah 34:16.
Uh-huh.
Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read.
So we're going to go ahead and go into the scriptures about what different issues or curses do we get as a people when we're not following the scriptures. Real quick. Deuteronomy 28 verse 15. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 15. And once again, we want to thank y'all for coming in. I'm not trying to rush. We're not rushing. But I want to thank y'all for showing up. Let's go ahead and get to it.
Deuteronomy. Chapter 28 verse 15.
Yes, sir.
It shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power.
So, the concept the scripture gave us in the beginning was to seek the scripture, seek the Father, because the word was the beginning, right? But the scriptures right here, if we do what? If we do not hearken, if I do not seek, if I do not connect to the Father, read.
To observe, to do all his commandments.
To observe, meaning what? I'm giving myself to being attentive and really consume my thoughts with making sure I'm flowing with the book in the right sense. I'm flowing with the scriptures the way the scriptures need to be flowed into. I'm flowing with the Spirit of the Most High by sticking to being in season with his will. Read.
To observe, to do all his commandments.
So I'm supposed to observe, meaning I'm paying exclusive attention. I'm giving the best of my mind to observing and following and connecting with his will, his commandments. Read.
And his statutes, which I command thee this day.
And his statutes. So once again, the class is titled Reversing the Curses. So we already went to seek the book of the Lord and read. We already went to, in the beginning there was the word. So now we're going to, how do we get from that circumstance where we have the opportunity to follow the Most High to where we are now as a people?
Right.
How did we get here?
Right. Let's go. Let's start off, and shalom, everybody. Let's start off with Deuteronomy chapter 28, because some of us may know Deuteronomy 28. Some of us may not, but for those that's been in the truth for a while, we know that. We know what it means. We know what it says. We're going to take a look at it because Deuteronomy 28 was evidence from the Most High to let us know that we are the children of Israel. It's one of the greatest chapters that we can go to biblically to identify that the things that the Most High promised that will come to pass as punishments for foregoing His commandments, for forsaking His commandments, is happening exactly the way He planned it and intended. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1 first, and then verse 15, and then get straight to the point.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass.
So he's telling us it's a future prophecy. This is Moses speaking to the children of Israel. Go ahead.
If thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy power.
He said, if you shall hearken what?
Diligently.
Man, if you pay strong attention, diligence is painstaking effort. So he said, listening, it takes effort to really listen. So the Most High is telling the children of Israel by way of Moses, if you listen to and listen, hearken means to listen and follow. If you follow these commandments that I'm giving you, go ahead.
Diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy power to observe and to do all His commandments which I command thee this day.
Okay.
What was the agreement that the Most High made with the children of Israel? If you follow my commandments, go ahead.
The Lord thy power will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
He says, I'll set you guys up into a status that will elevate you above all the nations of the earth. So that was a promise that, and a contract that the Most High made an agreement with Moses and the children of Israel, is that He would set us up above all the nations of the earth. You know, and now we know the Most High is not a liar. So we look at our current condition in America. The Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, or brown man, is nowhere near the top of the nation. Now we do top the charts, but in all the wrong categories. We top the charts in abortions. We top the charts in drug use, broken homes, prison. We top the charts, and we make hit songs too.
It's like greatest hit right now. How to lose?
But we top the charts, but in the wrong way. So he says that we will be the greatest nation on the whole earth. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee.
And we were supposed to be a people getting what?
Blessings.
Getting blessings, man. We were supposed to be stacking up blessings as a people. You know, a blessing for us is my check came on Friday instead of Monday. Because Saturday was a holiday, so they gave me Friday was a holiday, they gave my check on Thursday. To us, that's a blessing. Yeah, yes, sir.
I'm gonna say right now for the time, income tax.
Income tax, yeah.
Money.
Income tax is a blessing.
They will give money.
You know what? That's nothing compared to what the Most High had in store for us. Not for what He intended for us. You know, we look at those things as blessings, and then they are because of the circumstances. But that's minute and small compared to what the Most High had in store. All right. So we were supposed to be adding up blessings. Jump down to verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28. Verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe, to do all His commandments and His statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
He says that all these what?
Curses.
Shall come upon us and what?
And overtake thee.
So, go ahead.
Cursed shalt thou be in the city.
He says the beginning of your curse is going to be in the city. When you're born in the city, you're going to be cursed. Because you're not going to be in the top economical status in the city. Go ahead.
And cursed shalt thou be in the field.
And we know that the field is the world, right? So no matter where we are in the city, no matter where we are in the world, what is going to be our condition as a people?
Cursed.
We're going to be cursed. This is why it's synonymous with our people, the children of Israel. No matter what city you go to, in North, Central, and South America, where the indigenous people are, the colonized people, the oppressed people are, you will find that their conditions are cursed as a whole. There's maybe one or two or a few that may be able to escape the
Intensity of the
the
curses
intensity,
on the low level.
but as far as a nation of people, we're not on top. As a nation of people, we're still cursed. But the class is called reversing the curses. Now, when you go through Deuteronomy 28, from verse 16 on down, or all 15 on down, or 16 on down to 68, shows us the tremendous amount of curses that the Most High had in store for us as a people. There's no way in a 3-hour class we're going to be able to touch and go over and explain each and every one of these curses. So we're going to isolate a particular curse that's a good catch. We're going to isolate a particular curse that we know is an issue, that's a problem that we can attack right now. And one of these curses, let's jump down to, is read verse 18 real quick.
Verse 18, cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
So now the Most High said, because we didn't hearken and follow his commandments, he said, cursed shall be thy what?
Fruit of thy body.
And what's the fruit of your body? It's your children. So what are the first curses that we can change from Deuteronomy 28 that we have in our possession? Our children. This is so I'm not gonna we can read all of Deuteronomy 28 later, but what you do with your children was going to be the focus of today's topic. How you raise your children, what you do with your children, and what do you set up for them so that they don't have to live out their life cursed, because it is also given to them to be cursed. It is destined for them also to be cursed. So we got to go into what, if we're going to reverse curses, what must we change in the rearing or the development of our children so that they don't have to be cursed. And we can do this individually with each and every one of these curses. But for now, we're going to deal with what? Read verse 18 again.
Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body and the fruit of thy land.
It says, so your land going to be cursed, but your children are going to be cursed. So in what way are our children cursed? Jump down to verse 25.
Verse 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies.
He says, because he said you're going to be destroyed, and then your enemies are going to have what? They're going to have influence over your children more than you are. You're not going to have any power. Your power to deal with your children correctly is going to be limited.
They'll give us their philosophy and opinion on how we should rear our children.
Or they'll give us their psychology, or they'll give us their medication on how to raise our children.
Yep.
These are
They make money off it too. Make a lot of money.
That's $1 billion trillion dollar industry. Their diagnosis, their medicines, their psychology, their treatment, their counseling centers. They have a way of dealing with children. But for us, we have to adopt some other method other than what the Most High had in store for our children in order for our children to have some type of future.
True.
You know what we tell our kids? Go to work. Get a job. Get an education. That's about as good as it gets in America as far as what can you do for your children. How can you set them up? How can you set up your children? He said, because your enemy has smitten you, and now what?
Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them.
Because now all your enemy got to do is come inside your home with a CPS case.
Yeah.
With a warrant. With a phone. All they got to do is make one phone call. And people inside your house telling you how to raise your kids.
Quickly.
In a heartbeat. Jump down to verse 32.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
And it's gotten a little bit better, because when we first got to America, the family was split up, depending on the needs of the planters that was here growing crops in America and what they needed for their farms and for their plantation homes.
Yeah.
If they needed a water boy to fetch water, They needed a damn a planter, somebody to grow tobacco or carrots or mustard seeds or grapes or whatever that they were growing here in America, cotton.
Or they was feeding our children their scraps under the table, conditioning their minds to be slaves.
Right.
Literally.
So whatever the need was, they brought our kids here and took them and sold us on auction blocks. But now, at least, we have somewhat of an opportunity and a grip and an ability to raise up our children. Read on, because this was a curse.
And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
And all you do is think about your kids, and there's no control you have over where your kids go in this country. That's how we was brought to America, with an uncertainty on the future of our children, an uncertainty of where they'll be raised, how will they be raised, how will they be taken care of, who they're going to grow up with. What the hell is a slave master going to do to them? Will I ever see my kids again? That's how we got here, based on Deuteronomy 28. These were the curses. What verse are we on right now?
Verse 32.
Now jump down to verse 54.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate,
Go ahead.
his eye shall be evil toward his brother,
Go ahead.
and toward the wife of his bosom.
Go ahead. It says, so the instability, another curse is that the instability, when we do have our children, will be where?
No.
It will be in the home. So your children were cursed from birth, because you had to raise your children in the hand of your enemies, in the country, in the place of your enemies. And whatever may have happened to them or was going to happen to them, you had no control. And then when you did get a household, and you did get to a man got with a woman, and a woman got with a man, and they had kids, the Most High was going to cause an internal meltdown within the household as a curse. Now, how many of us can attest to this? I know I can. How many of us can attest to the broken home syndrome, growing up having to be, you had to quit sports because you had to go get a job, or you couldn't, you were raised extra early. You got grown real fast. By 11, 12, 13 years old, you was already making money, selling something on the corner, or having to find something, a way to cut grass, or find a way to make some money to take care of the household. Your childhood was robbed from you. And then if you was in a house, all you watched was arguments, dissension, debate, divorce, breakups between mothers and fathers. Is this not the children of Israel?
Come.
Do we not lead all stats and statistics when it comes to broken homes?
Come.
These are the curses that the Most High said would befall us in the latter times. This was guaranteed to happen for not being obedient to the commandments. Guaranteed. So read 54 one more time.
54 from the top. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother and toward the wife of his bosom.
And the husband's eye, the man's eye shall be evil towards what?
His wife.
Now,
brother.
Come on, man. His brother,
His brother.
gang violence, criminal activity against your own people.
Come. I mean it's like a vicious nature if you're not from the same area. Like, everybody can't be born in the same part of the city.
Yep.
Everybody can't be on the same street. If you're not from this street, you're not accepted.
Right.
If you're not from this neighborhood, you're not accepted. Or if you're from the other side, it's gotta be enmity is accepted. We're gonna have an issue with each other because we're from different sides of town. And then Esau breaks it up into wards so that with different numbers. So like different ward. If you're not from this ward, then we're gonna have an issue with you.
Right.
So this creates this almost like it's like hornets in a jar. You just shake them up and they just kill each other. That's the nature of our people when it comes to how we look at our brothers.
Right. And he's saying this is guaranteed to happen to us because we didn't follow his commandments. Now we're in this day and age, we have the opportunity to recover ourselves somewhat from all these curses.
God.
and that's gonna be the focus of the class today.
God.
Is how do we reverse this particular curse?
Yeah.
Because there's a whole lot of them. Where now the internal war and strife is right inside my household. The evil is inside my household. It's not enough that your enemy is already controlling you. It's not enough that you're in the hands of your enemies and you got to labor for them. But the Most High was going to internalize the battles that we fight and struggle with every day, so that the person I look at every day that I'm supposed to love and have an affection to, I can't stand and I disagree with. And they get under my skin and they get under my nerves. The closest person to me, which is the one that resides in my house, shares my address, is the person that I can't live with the most.
It should be the place of peace.
Should be the place of peace and comfort. And who's affected? Read on in 54.
I shall be evil.
I should be evil towards his brother. Go ahead.
And toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children.
And what is the curse that shocks a lot of people when they read this? Is that a man was pretty much guaranteed to do what?
Leave his children.
Leave his children. This is why it's necessary that we got to reverse the curses that the Most High put upon us, because it was our fault from the jump.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know when Christ is going to return. We don't know when Christ is going to return. So until that time, we're still feeling the repercussions of these curses. A lot of these curses are hitting home as we speak today. So it's up to us to start identifying where could we have, understanding the scriptures, have made a mistake with the Most High, looking at the judgment and decision and the punishment that he allowed us to undergo. How can we resolve or to overcome these obstacles?
Yeah.
Because these obstacles are still present.
It's a sickness.
These issues are still here.
God.
Men are still leaving their women. Sons and daughters are still growing up without their fathers.
God.
Right?
God.
The broken home syndrome,
Hasn't stopped
it's
anytime soon.
increased. Divorce rate has increased. Single parent families have increased. They've not gotten better. So coming to the knowledge of what we know, how can we resolve this issue? Yes, sir.
There, even divorces are celebrated now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forgot what they.
Divorce parties, huh?
Yeah. A divorce party. We're gonna celebrate because the divorce went through.
10 years is over. Man.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Or there's so much hate that I can't stand you so much. I won't give you the pleasure of a divorce.
That just kill you slow.
Yeah.
No,
You just gotta be tied to it. You want a divorce? You pay for it.
I heard it's so expensive in Cali. You get a divorce, you gotta live with them, man. Even though you're divorced,
Even though you're divorced, you gotta live together.
We can't afford to move out.
Yeah. Neither can you afford the paperwork and the name change.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
So a lot of people are divorced and still share the last name, house, address, and sometimes they got the new relationship is in the house too.
That's not cool, man.
I live with my ex-girlfriend's baby daddy. We all live together. It's craziness, man.
Oh, well, she's crazy, man.
They just do everything, I do my thing. They go to work, I go to work. It's true. This is true.
It's a true thing.
We joking, but it's true. This is the estate of our people.
Come.
But we have an opportunity to reverse this, because this was a judgment slapped on us directly from the Most High for being disobedient and rebellious. Read on.
And toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
And towards the what?
Remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
Go ahead.
55. So that he will not give to any of them of the flesh of his children whom he shall eat.
Go ahead.
Because he hath nothing left him in the sea.
In the sea. He's talking about his condition is so bad, it's better for him just to be by himself.
It's a siege, Jack.
Yeah.
He's at war with everybody.
He's at war. It's better for him just to take what he can get and go. And also, you find now the children, the parents are living off the children. The condition has gotten so bad that the kids is what's sustaining the household. They got to go to work. They got to put in work. They got to help bring income coming in. They got to use their name and their credit at an early age to be put on bills. They got bad credit before they even get credit.
Or they even get them diagnosed so they can get the check.
Yeah, they get them diagnosed with conditions, so they can get a state check. They get a Social Security check.
Get some help.
They get some help.
Get some help here.
Yeah, it's by whatever means that they have to go through, and sit down and tell your kid that your kid is slow. Your kid he got an issue, and if they ask you, you let them know you got this problem. But we're gonna find out what's lacking. But that's part of a curse. Read on.
And in the straightness wherewith thy enemies shall distress thee in all thy gates.
They said, and the way that your enemy is going to have, in order for you to survive, you're going to have to come out with tactics on survival. You got to create something to survive. This is why people have put credit in their kids' names. It's ridiculous. These are survival tactics. Read on.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter.
She's know it because she hates her own condition. There's a self-hatred. Her daughter's coming out just like her. Got her tendencies, got her ways, got her speech, got her talk, got her mannerisms. And because she doesn't even love herself, she doesn't even love her daughter. Yep. It's self-hatred perpetuated.
True. Or I'm competing with
her. Yeah, I'm competing. I'm talking down on her. I'm not, because I don't want her to be better than me. You think you're better than me? It's enmity between mother and daughter. That's ridiculous.
I can't let you have a good man because I failed in my relationship. So
right.
I'm going to sabotage you with bad advice because I don't want you to outperform me in life.
Right. Yeah, because I can't give you advice anymore because my situation is so bad. And
that's a real thing.
It's evil, bro. There's a lot of problems between mothers and daughters. Conflicts between mothers and daughters. This conflict is real, man. This conflict is in our households. Read it.
57. And toward her young one that cometh out from between her feet.
It says, toward her son. Why does she hate her son? What does he look like?
Like the dad.
Just like your daddy, man. So I'm gonna tell you all kind of evil things about your father because your father left. Because that's what he said he was gonna do anyway in 54. So since your father's left, I'm a down talk. I'm a degrade him. I'm gonna tell him he didn't love you. I'm gonna tell him all these things because the eye turned evil. I have an evil outlook towards you. I hate you. So I'm gonna tell you everything evil because of the way I feel. This was a curse that the Most High said would hit our households. Read on. Now it says, toward the son, toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. Everybody got a problem with each other. Mother against mother, mother against daughter, father against son. All these are issues, man.
Straight division.
Can't get along. Can't get in the house. Can't live together without fighting, arguing, debating. This is division in the household. Now, the problem is when we got here, this hate was allowed to be perpetuated. And we were condemned. And our enemies mocked us for it. And our enemies still mock us for it. The children of our captors mock us for our conditions.
They make it entertainment. It's really entertainment for them, huh?
It is entertainment.
They actually literally make entertainment out of it.
You know, these reality shows.
Yeah.
Real Housewives of so-and-so. You watch these reality shows and you watch the turmoil that gets ratings. They get high ratings.
Yeah.
When you see us fighting each other. The turmoil that the Most High put on us as a condition of punishment, they're getting ratings and they're getting commercial advertisement money in between these high rated shows. They're getting advertisement money, benefit money, all kind of things.
They don't even have to write scripts like they used to write anymore. Listen, we can't write anything new. Just let these Negroes, these Latinos fight on camera.
Let them fight on camera. And let them show and put on display the immoral balance of what's going on in their households. And we could turn this into an episode and a series.
Exactly.
And this could become a nationally syndicated show. That's why Jerry Springer got so rich.
Yeah.
Jerry Springer wasn't putting white folks only on Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer got so popular, his bodyguard even came out with a show. What's his name? Steve? Steve had his own damn show.
No.
Huh? Steve the bodyguard? Yeah, he came out with his own show. Using the same methods
And it worked for him.
of Jerry Springer. Just put, what is it called?
It was called Steve something.
Steve Wilkos.
Steve Wilkos. He had his own show. Doing the same thing that Jerry Springer, his mentor, was doing. Putting foolishness on TV that on display that comes from our households. Go to Micah chapter 7 real quick, and somebody read verse 7. Go to Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Yeah, Micah chapter 7, verse 7.
Micah chapter 7, verse 7.
Hold on, go back.
Whenever you're ready.
Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Go ahead.
Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Therefore I will look unto
Okay. I got
the
you.
Lord.
One second.
I will
Hold on 1 second.
This on YouTube. Let me got the YouTube on. The YouTube on. So. Like that.
All right, I think that's it. So go ahead, read Micah chapter 7, verse 7.
Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Therefore I will look unto the Lord.
It says, therefore I will what?
Look unto the Lord.
What is our only way out of these curses?
Looking unto the Lord.
You got to look into the Lord. There's only one way to reverse the curses that the Most High got in store for us, particularly the curses of our children having to be raised in broken homes, particularly in our family structure where the father leaves the mother and the children have to fend for themselves, and the mother has to be the father and the mother at the same time. Particularly in the area of broken homes where, because the father left and the son is damn near identical to the father, the hatred is perpetuated from the father down to the son.
Come on. Well, he becomes the husband in the house.
Yeah, he becomes the man of the house, the responsible figure.
He got to carry all
Now
the weight.
it's your dad's fault, so now you got to go to work.
You got to bear the burden.
You got to bear the burden of the household. But he said the only way the only way to reverse these things is what? Read that.
Therefore, Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the Most High, the power of my salvation.
So until Christ comes back, we have to wait on the Most High. But what can you do within your households to start making these changes that the Most High pronounced against us through our rebellion and through our breaking of the commandments? What can you do now?
Yeah.
And this is why it says in 1 Timothy 3 and 5, read that real quick. 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 5.
1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 5. For if a man know not how to rule his own house,
It says, the Most High says that ruling a house, it says a man got to know how to rule his house. Leadership. Leadership starts where? In the home. It said if a man know not how to what?
rule his own house.
Now, why wouldn't we know how to rule our own house? What was the condition that the Most High put against us for 400 years? Curses. So now we got to make up for what our families didn't know how to do. Using the scriptures. He said if a man don't know how to rule well his own house, go ahead.
How shall he take care of the church of the Most High?
So leadership starts at the house. Even before we start trying to become vessels in the body of Christ, we have to learn how to do what? Fix what's in your house. Fix what's broken in your home. That's part of waiting on the Most High. So let's hold that. Let's go back to Micah chapter 7, verse 7.
Micah chapter 7, verse 7. Therefore I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the power of my salvation.
Go ahead.
My power will hear me.
It says the Most High will what?
Hear me.
If we call out to the Most High enough, if we implement these scriptures that's been missing out of our life, these laws, statutes, and commandments, and we pray and ask the Most High to intercede in our homes, we can start making small changes in the development of our households that's been broken down after 400 years of slavery. Go ahead.
Verse 8. It says, rejoice not against me, O my enemy.
And that's what the enemies have done. Now that we're in a broken state, they just shake their head. Oh, look at these blacks and Hispanics divorcing, fighting each other. I was in a store yesterday, and I was at a fish restaurant. There was only 3 black people in there. Me, another black man, and a sister that worked at the restaurant. And the brother and the restaurant was full of white folks and everybody else. The sister and the brother start arguing, yelling at each other, fighting, talking about, I'm gonna get my gun. Well, you go get your gun.
Come on.
I'm gonna have my husband get his gun. I'm like, man, we the only black folks in the restaurant, and we putting contention on full display. You gonna get your gun, and my husband gonna get his gun, and we gonna see what you talking about. They talking about killing each other in a fish restaurant. But he said, we got to try to make a difference. It's not a slap in the face to our mothers or our fathers because they were under the curses.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to make the changes.
Break these cycles.
It's up to us to break the cycle. Our enemies are not going to do it. If you're waiting on your enemy to stabilize your households, that's not what they're going to do.
Well, we've been doing that though. We've been voting for policies. We've been waiting for politics to solve the problem.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the latest book to come from Dr. Who so and so. We've been taking Dr. Phil's advice.
Yep. We've been waiting on our enemy to give us advice on how to reverse these curses. That's not what the Most High said is what's going to work. He said, we got to wait on the Most High. Go ahead.
Therefore, I will wait for the power of my salvation. My power will hear me.
Go ahead.
Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy.
And this is what he's saying. Our enemies have put us in a condition where they've made survival for our households almost unbearable.
Yeah.
Where the struggle to survive brings extra tension into a household. Your children shouldn't know anything about the financial collapse of your circumstance from a mother and a father's perspective. They shouldn't know nothing. That's not their business. But the children have no other options but to listen in on the struggles that go on between a mother and a father. And the conditions of poverty of why they're in the situation that they're in. And they should have nothing to do with that. Kids should be kids.
True.
They're supposed to be learning, developing, and growing.
ABCs in 1, 2, 3.
But instead, they have to live in this, well, you get them on Wednesday, but have them ready by Friday. I'm going to pick them up this weekend, but make sure you drop them back off on Sunday. Because I got to be at work in the morning.
Yeah.
Now the child is being tossed between parents, and that's not none of their business. Now I'm driving around America trying to meet deadlines and drop-off times and pick-up times. And if I don't pick my kid up at this time, I'm leaving. I'm not waiting for you. That's your responsibility. If you late, oh well. Get them next week. Or wait till the judge give you some type of, ability to see your child. Everybody's living like this. I'm waiting on the judge to give me rights and liberty and the ability to see my kids. Accessibility to my children. You know how crappy that is? They have to wait for a damn judge once a month to hold a hearing. Then you got to hear out about 50 people in the damn courtroom. You got to go hear all their court cases just to get to your court case, just for the judge to say you got to wait 6 months. And in 6 months, I'm gonna give you dual custody of your children. Then your kids gotta endure this. And the enemy just like, you know what? Oh well, should have thought about it before you got married. You should have thought about it before y'all hooked up. It's always your fault. So our enemy, but the scripture is saying what? It's only a matter of time before our enemies who've propagated this condition is going to feel what we've been feeling for the last 400 years. Read on.
It says, when I fall, I shall arise.
He said, but the scripture said, yes, Israel is in a state of depravity and sorrow.
Yeah.
We like I said, we top the charts in abortion. We top the charts in broken homes, single parent family. We top the charts in all these things. He said, but it won't be this way for long.
Juvenile delinquent.
Juvenile delinquency, juvenile detention centers, foster homes, foster care.
Yeah.
We top the charts in all these things. He said, but we fell, which is true. We did fall. But what?
So when I fall, I shall arise.
But here's the good thing. We're not going to be in this situation forever. But what every black, Hispanic, and Native American has to understand is that you got to fight, man. You have a big task in front of you. You have a very large task in front of you to reverse everything that the Most High and your enemies have put upon you. The Most High put these curses upon us because of our rebellion, and our enemies keep it going. And they mock it. They mock and they laugh at us when we're in these conditions.
Just like when the temple fell out. They said, raise it even to the ground.
Even to the ground. Read on.
He says, when I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me.
And we are in a condition of darkness. We are in a situation where it's almost hopeless to even get a woman. There's so many people that just hook up temporarily just as part-time lovers. There's so much of this. We just friends with benefits. We don't want to commit. We're just dating. We're seeing each other for 5 years, but we just say we're dating. We're not together.
I've been dating for 5 years.
You've been dating for 5 years? You've been dating for 10 years?
Well, no, at the commentary actually is now we're talking.
Oh, we're talking now.
We've been talking for
We've been talking
15 years.
For 10 years.
We're just friends.
Yeah, we're just friends. You just friends?
Right.
We're just friends.
You know what? Our people is in darkness because they don't understand. No, you've been married for this long, but you've been so broken that you don't trust your partner. Therefore, you don't trust that you live together, but you got separate bank accounts because because you never know.
You never know.
Because you never know. You got separate bank accounts. You don't join your finances together. You've been together for 10 years, but you got your apartment. They got their apartment.
You can have hit albums, and you can make Death Row. You can make Aftermath. It really don't matter. You could be a wealthy person. It doesn't matter your economic status on a low level. Yes, but even in a wealthy level, they're dealing with the same issues.
They're dealing with the same issues, man. You know, Dr. Dre just came out that court case.
Yeah.
What does she want? $1 million a month?
A month.
$2 million a month?
She's making beats too. She's like, that's how you do it.
Say it again.
Kanye in it now.
Kanye's in it now. You know, they're not escaping. Nobody escaped from this. You know, nobody escapes this, man. Because the Most High said these curses was gonna pursue us. But you got now our people in the darkness on how to date, how to be in a relationship. We having kids. We're not sure how to raise them. We have agreements. You know what? Just in case we have the talk. You know what the talk is, right? The talk is just in case that doesn't work. But now that you're pregnant, we got a kid already. Just don't put me on child support. Well, I won't put you on child support. Just give me $400, $500 a month. Now we got this talk. Now we got this agreement going on to where you promise not to put me on child support as long as I promise to pay. And you just make sure I get the kid whenever I can.
And we already didn't trust each other in the first place.
We already don't trust each other again. But he said, we were in darkness, man. Read on.
It says, verse 9, I will bear the indignation of the Most High.
But what I'm saying is, as a people, you have to overcome the indignation. It is our fault as a nation of people.
True.
That we sinned against the Most High and had to be raised in broken homes and broken projects and broken situations. But you got to bear it. But that's the topic of the class initially, is reversing the curses. You have to deal with the circumstances that the Most High put us in due to our rebellion. But this should give you hope. Read on.
It says, I will bear the indignation of the Most High because I have sinned against him.
Because as a nation of people, we got to realize we made the mistake first. It was our doing that got us in this situation. It was our negligence that got us in this situation. Our disobedience that got us in this situation. To where now my household is unstable. Families are unstable. Children are unstable. Husbands and wives are unstable. Because you didn't want to know the Lord. Our forefathers didn't want to know the Most High enough. They didn't want to follow enough.
Can I pull scripture right here?
God.
Real quick. 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 30. 1 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 29. I kind of want to read it.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, bro. Can I read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says, "Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifice and my offering?" Why don't you want to sacrifice no more?
Right.
So before these curses came, he was like, "Listen, homie, you ain't showing up for the sacrifice. You ain't showing up for. You haven't really presented anything.
You ain't offering nothing."
It said, "Wherefore kick ye at my sacrifices, at my offering?" It says, "Which I have commanded in my habitation." He commanded him to get sacrifices in his house.
Yep.
It says, "And honorest thy sons above me, to make yourselves fat with the chiefest of all the offerings of my people." So we put, our children before the Most High. We put everything before the Most High. It would be our job, kids, shelter, our
These are excuses that we come up with, and we'll use our kids as an excuse.
Yeah.
Senator Ted Cruz did it. Said I had to take my daughter to Cancun. I didn't do it. He threw his own daughter under the bus, man. He threw his own daughter under the bus, and then came back and said, "I stand corrected. I was gonna take the trip anyway for a couple of days." after somebody said how much of a loser you are for throwing your kids under the bus. But this is what we do.
God.
We make excuses, and we'll use our children as excuses of why we can't sacrifice to the Most High.
Yeah.
I got the kids tonight. I can't go to class. I got to take care of the babies. I got this. They got homework. They got this. They got this. They got that. They got sports. They got this. All these things are excuses, man. And our kids will be the reason.
Come. It says, verse 30. "Wherefore the Lord power of Israel said, I said indeed that thy house and the house of thy father should walk before me forever." He said, "Did you know I was supposed you and the house of your father should walk before me forever?"
Mm-hmm.
That was his order. It says, "But now the Lord saith, be it far from me. For them that honor me will I honor, and they that despise me shall be lightly esteemed."
Yep.
Then it says, verse 31, "Behold, the days come that I will cut off thy arm and the arm of thy father's house, that there shall be not an old man in thy house."
So he's saying already, well, for the punishment, then I'm gonna cause the wise ones to depart from the household, and then you're gonna to struggle and try to figure it out on your own. Now you got to live life figuring things out. But that's not how it's supposed to be.
There ain't gonna be no old man in the house.
There ain't be no old man in the house.
Ain't no strength, ain't no protection.
That old man represents stability.
God.
And understanding.
Good counsel.
Good counsel, good advice. But this is a curse. Read on in Micah.
Micah chapter 7 and verse...
Using verse 9.
Verse 9, I'll start from the beginning. It says, "I will bear the indignation of the Most High, because I have sinned against him."
As a nation of people, we sin against the Most High. Read on.
"Until he plead my cause."
Until the Most High sends Christ back to fix everything, then we got to bear this indignation. That means we have to fight to overcome these curses until Christ returns. Read on.
"And execute judgment for me. He will bring me forth to the light.
Go ahead.
And I shall behold his righteousness.
Read on, which is Christ. Go ahead.
Then she that is mine enemy."
It says, then our enemies. This is what the Most High is going to do to our enemies. Every nation that mocked and laughed at our condition, that didn't come to our aid and assistance, that perpetuated these curses,
God, kids when we was down.
continue to make laws where if you were a felon, you can't get food stamps. If you're a felon, you can't get government aid. If you're a felon, you can't get a student loan. You know what I'm saying?
They can do a crime again, huh?
How they gonna take care of their family then? He can't get government assistance. He can't get housing because he's a felon. He can't get food stamps because he's a felon. He can't get government aid because he's a felon. He can't get a student loan because he's a felon. What do you leave it? He can't get a job because you're a felon. What do you leave him left to do? How's he gonna feed his household?
Don't do the crime if you don't want to do the time.
Right. But he said this. Read verse 10 again.
Verse 10.
Yeah.
Verse 10. Then she that is mine enemy shall see it, and shame shall cover her.
It's crazy.
Which said unto me, where is the Lord thy power?
Where's the why y'all pray all day? Y'all go to church,
Wow.
but why your condition ain't changed?
That's good.
It's a lot of people that this culture, this society is making fun of the fact
Yeah.
that the Most High has not yet changed our circumstance.
Come.
And they believe that because the Most High has not sent Christ yet as a form of reformation and rescue, that our condition is going to be forever in darkness. That we're forever going to have broken homes. That there's never going to be any hope for us as a nation of people. Read on.
It says, mine eyes shall behold her now. I'm sorry, shall behold her. Now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets.
And when Christ comes back, they're going to feel what we've been feeling this whole time. Go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12 verse 17. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12 verse 17.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12, verse 17.
Read that.
For when men will not believe that thou art of full power,
He says, because that's why our enemy said in Micah, he says, where's the Lord your power? Why do you have faith? Why do you read the Bible? That's not changing the nation as a whole. You know why? Because in order to change the nation as a whole, we have to change one household at a time until Christ comes back. We have to reverse these curses one household at a time. One brother at a time,
Come.
one sister at a time, one father at a time, and one mother at a time.
Come.
It's going to take some time. But because we haven't seen a national change, doesn't mean that you don't start making changes now.
Come.
Read on.
thou showest thy strength, and among them that know it, thou makest their boldness manifest.
It says among them among them that know it, thou makest their boldness manifest. Now you can see, due to the treatment of our enemies based upon our condition, that they don't have any mercy, that they don't really care. Read on.
Verse 18. But thou, mastering thy power, judgest with equity,
Go ahead.
and orderest us with great favor.
Read on.
For thou mayest use power when thou wilt.
It says we just got to ride out the Most High's indignation and make changes. We got to bear it. Go ahead.
But by such works hast thou taught thy people that the just man should be merciful.
He says, but in the meantime, you should be, if you're coming from a state of depravity or poverty and disdain and darkness out of them in America, he said, you just got to do what? Look for mercy. You just try to not be like your enemies. You still got to be merciful to your people, regardless of the condition and the situation you come from. Read on.
And hast made thy children to be of good hope.
And this is how you're going to give your children hope. Read on.
That thou givest repentance for sins.
He says, the way that we give hope to our circumstance is that we tell our children to seek what?
Hope.
Repentance. That we seek repentance for our sins. And as long as we keep looking for repentance, it gives our children hope for a better future. The more you repent, you give your kids hope.
That's true. That's true.
This is how you start reversing the curses of broken homes.
So if they see change, that gives the children hope.
That gives them an opportunity to reverse the curses that was put upon us by the Most High. It's your repentance that gives them the hope they need to keep evolving. Otherwise, if you don't repent, you're going to create another cycle of broken homes.
Generation number 2 or number 1,000.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
It's going to be no different. Then you're going to have 5 generations of single parent families. You're going to have more divorces, more broken homes, more children being raised by themselves. He said that what gives our nation hope is us coming to repentance. Read on.
Verse 20. For if thou didst punish the enemies of thy children, and the condemned to death with such deliberation, give them time and place whereby they might be delivered from their malice.
It says that the Most High has smashed nations for putting us in slavery, like the Egyptians. But just like America, He's gonna smash them too. But He's giving them time for what? To repent. But they're not changing. There's no reparations coming our way. Out of all the people that have been enslaved, even the Japanese received, I think it was like $6,000 per person in a household when they were in America during World War II and they were put in detention centers. They got reparations. They got some crazy amount of money. Now, reparations is now being talked about, but it hasn't been distributed. Has reparations been distributed to the Black, Hispanic, and Native American of America? No, not at all.
Got casino.
Yeah, you get a casino, and then you get taxed at probably a 30 to 40% tax rate. But read on.
Verse 21. With how great circumspection didst thou judge thine own sons, unto whose father thou hast sworn, and made covenants of good promise.
He says what the Most High is wanting us to see is that the whole time that we're trying to come out of these curses, you're supposed to look at the other nation as what not to do when they're up and you're down, and you're supposed to look at the other nations and understand what to do when you're up because they're about to come down. Read on.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12 verse 22. Therefore, whereas thou dost chasten us, thou scourgest our enemies 1,000 times more.
Although we got broken homes and we got single parent families, what's in store for them? 1,000 times more worse situations than what we had to endure in America. Read on.
To the intent that when we judge, we should carefully think of thy goodness, and when we ourselves are judged, we should look for mercy.
Right. So what the Most High is allowing, this time that we're in right now in America, coming out of these curses, this 400 years of oppression, we're supposed to be looking for the Most High to be merciful to us. We're supposed to be repentant. That's what we're supposed to be doing. The other nations should be trying to repent for their actions and putting us in slavery. But since they're not, he says their situation is going to be 1,000 times worse than ours, than our captivity. So we're supposed to be learning something from our slavery and our captivity. We're supposed to be learning something from Deuteronomy 28. Not just functioning and perpetuating the broken home cycles, the broken marriages. We're supposed to be learning from it.
True.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 22.
42, 22.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 22.
Read that.
It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled.
But our people is what?
Robbed and spoiled.
We've been robbed and we've been what?
Spoiled.
We've been victimized. We make up the largest quantity of people, supposed to be the minority, but we make up the largest quantity of people in jails, prisons, and institutions. We make up the largest. Read on.
It says, they are all of them snared in holes.
It says they're all in what?
Snared in holes.
Is there any real hope in America?
No.
But a job, a career, debt, paying taxes, paying bills? It's not going to get any better. He said all of us are snared in what?
Holes.
Go ahead. We're all in some type of debt. Read on.
And they are hid in prison houses.
And a large majority of our people are where?
In prison houses.
In a prison house. A lot of our family members are locked up in prison with no opportunity of knowing or chance of knowing when they're going to come out. A lot of us are walking around with free Uncle so-and-so on the shirt.
Oh, yeah. It's real.
Free cousin so-and-so on the shirt. Free Big Mike on the shirt. A lot of us are just putting our family members on shirts saying free so-and-so because we don't know when they're going to come out. Read on.
It says they are for a prey.
It says the Most High set us up in America as for a what?
Prey.
Right.
Were you ever supposed to be looked at as an equal citizen in America?
No.
No.
We fight for it.
America was not designed for us as a people.
God.
It was designed as a punishment, not a place of prosperity and freedom. He said they're all a what?
Pray,
Go ahead.
and none deliver it.
And why are we waiting for our enemy to give us reparations or restore or say I'm sorry or apologize or to have mercy on us? Too many of our people are trying to still hold hands with the enemy.
Yeah.
As if our enemy is supposed to show us mercy. As if our enemy is going to give us reparations or feel sorry for 400 years of oppression.
So what would you do to reparations anyway?
Give it right back to our enemy.
It's a trick. You're right. It's right back to him.
He said none of our enemies care enough to reestablish and put us back on high. Read on.
It says, for a spoil, and none saith, restore.
Our entire time in America, we've been what? Spoiled.
Stolen, taken advantage of.
Taken advantage of, rape, rob, pillage, and murder. And given project living as our only form of living. And government assistance as our only form of survival. That was the answer to the American problem. He said, and none said what?
Restore.
And nobody said, let's get these people back on their feet. Let's get them back in their original position and condition.
Original.
So, matter of fact, it says none said restore, right? We're going to read something right here. When America was founded, it was founded on the Constitution, right? And the Constitution, pull this up for me. So who are the writers of the Constitution? Pull that up for me. When America was founded, the Most High knows why we were put in America. We were put in America as a form of punishment and captivity. But when America was founded and the Constitution was written, this was about European poor white Europeans fleeing England from living a feckless life, looking for the opportunity in capitalism of becoming a free individual and not being a forever indentured servant in England.
Yeah.
Writers of the Constitution. Read
It's
that.
right here. The easiest answer to the question who wrote the Constitution is James Madison,
James Madison, go ahead.
who drafted the document after the Constitutional Convention of 1787.
So in 1787, the founding fathers of America came together and they drafted a resolution of freedom from England, from England's taxation, and from indentured servitude. These were revolutionaries trying to flee servitude and slavery from England.
I finish the point right
Yeah.
here. It says, but of course, that oversimplifies things. While Madison is recognized as the chief architect of the finished product, the Constitution was the result of nearly 4 months of arduous deliberation and compromise among dozens of delegates from 12 states at the convention. So, 12 states, 4 months, and a whole lot of
Arguing,
and dealing and
deliberating, going back and forth on what the Constitution and what freedom means. This is what it meant to the founding fathers of America. Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington. George Washington was there too. Matter of fact, he was presiding over the convention.
It says Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington.
These were the founding fathers of America. But as they drafted a Declaration of Freedom, a Constitution of Freedom, it was not written for us. As a matter of fact, read this right here. This is a piece written by a Yale professor in the 1970s called Slavery and the American Paradox by Edmund S. Morgan.
Okay.
Read this right here at the bottom. We're not going to read all of it because it's like long.
The rise of liberty and equality in this country was accompanied by the rise of slavery.
So as poor white settlers or immigrants from England came to America to look for freedom and opportunity, what did that mean for us? That meant more slavery for us. Matter of fact, I want you to read this now. Read this right here. And Virginia.
And Virginia.
Page 6.
Page 6. And Virginia, produced the most eloquent spokesman for freedom and equality.
So out of the state of Virginia came out who?
George Washington,
George Washington came out of Virginia. Who else?
James Madison,
James Madison came out of Virginia. Who else?
and above all, Thomas Jefferson.
And who else came out of Virginia?
Thomas Jefferson.
Read on.
They were all slaveholders.
They were all what?
Slaveholders.
So while they were writing the Constitution, with 12 states coming together in 4 months, deliberating the Constitution of what the articles supposed to look like, it says they were all what?
Slaveholders.
Read on.
And remained so throughout their lives.
And they never let their slaves go until they died. So when they wrote the Constitution of freedom and liberty, was that ever intended for you? So the American concept, the American dream, had nothing to do with you. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right?
You weren't in the dream, right?
You were in the dream. While they were in the convention center, you was picking cotton.
Brothers would quote that.
Read on.
In recent years, we have been shown in painful detail the contrast between Jefferson's pronouncements in favor of Republican liberty.
He was always talking about Republican liberty, freedom from England, freedom from the crown, freedom from taxation. Read on.
And his complicity in denying the benefits of that liberty to blacks.
So he was all about liberty and freedom for America, or shall I say white immigrants from Europe, but he wasn't in it for the liberty of who?
The blacks.
Read on.
It has been slaves. Oh, let's see.
What verse is it? What page is that?
It's verse chapter, page 6.
Page 6, right?
Yeah.
Read this right here. That's cool. Read this right here.
All right, gotcha. This is right here.
It has been
tempting to dismiss Jefferson.
This is a Yale professor right here. It said it has been tempting to dismiss Jefferson, the founding fathers of the Constitution. Go ahead.
And the whole Virginia dynasty.
Which is George Washington, James Madison. Go ahead.
As hypocrites.
As what?
Hypocrites.
So this is a Yale professor telling other people, Americans, that the founding fathers are what?
Hypocrites.
Hypocrites. Because as they drafted the Articles of Freedom, that had nothing to do with you. This is in 1784, right? It had nothing to do with you.
God.
You weren't in on the board for being free. And this is the mentality of why or how they looked at you. Read this right here in Revolutionary America.
Page 12. In Revolutionary America, among men who spent their lives working for other men rather than working for themselves, slaves probably constituted a majority.
So the majority of the people in captivity that needed freedom was who? It was the slaves. If there was going to be a constitution, it should have been written for who?
The slaves.
Because the majority of the people in slavery was
Slaves.
the slaves. Go ahead.
In Virginia, they constituted a large majority. If Jefferson and Madison, not to mention Washington, were unhappy about that fact, and yet did nothing to alter it, that they might have been restrained, in part at least, by thoughts of the role that they might be played in the United States by a large mass of free laborers.
So they thought that they felt that at the time, because there was so much free slave labor in America, that they didn't have to worry about the problems of Europe coming to America. The problems that they had in Europe was that it was not enough jobs, and they had a fear of overpopulation.
Mm-hmm.
So they hired themselves so that the economy was so bad that people hired themselves out for labor. Those were indentured servants. So they thought that we have no need of producing that same type of economy here in America because we have so many free slaves. We benefit from slave labor. Read this right here.
Jefferson's plan for freeing his own slaves never carried out.
So even though Jefferson was about pursuit of liberty and happiness and justice, he didn't have any plans on what? Freeing his slaves. About the best thing that was promised to us as the children of Israel being in America was what? Read on.
It says, included an interim educational period in which they would have been half taught.
It says the best we were
That's
going to
crazy.
get. It says that Jefferson drafted up is an opportunity for you to get what?
Half taught.
You were supposed to get a partial education. Go ahead.
It's right here. Half compelled to support themselves on rented land.
It says the only thing that we wanted you to have, what Jefferson drafted up, was an opportunity for you to have a half education and for you to survive on your own on rented lands. Never for you to become a landowner. Never for you to become a property owner. It wasn't meant for you. Read on.
For without guidance and preparation for self-support, he believed slaves could not be expected to become fit members of a Republican society.
Why didn't Jefferson want to free the slaves?
They weren't fit.
He believes that they would not be fit for this Republican society. So you got a lot of black folks that really have this American ideal that you're going to get somewhere in America when this place wasn't made for you. It wasn't made for you, by you. Yes, you were part of the building of it in the process of slavery, but as far as having a future in it, as having freedom in it, it was not meant for you. Read on.
It says, and George Tucker, who drafted detailed plans for freeing Virginia slaves.
And he said, and another man said, you know what? If we do decide to free the slaves, read on. Or what would it look like if we did free the slaves? Read.
Worried about the possibility of their becoming idle.
He says they would become what?
Idle.
So they already planned. They planned out your future before you was even born here in America. They knew that they had no interest in freeing you. They said you would probably become idle. Go ahead.
Dissipated.
You would become dissipated. Go ahead.
And finally, a numerous banditity.
You would become a clan of bandits. That's a banditity, a clan of bandits. Go ahead.
Instead of turning your attention to industry and labor.
They said you wouldn't work, and you wouldn't go to work, and you wouldn't be a benefit to society. Isn't this ironic that we do all the damn industry and labor? But that the notion that was produced was to keep us as perpetual slaves. Read on.
Here.
Mm-hmm.
That these people must be bound to labor.
No, read right here. Right here. He therefore included.
He therefore included in his plans a provision.
He says that this was a draft that was put on the board dealing with us as slaves. Go ahead.
For compelling the labor of the freed men on an annual basis.
He says if we did
Wow.
free them, we would have to force them to work on an annual basis. Go ahead.
For we must not lose sight of this important consideration.
Go ahead.
He said that these people must be bound to labor.
These are the forefathers of America. He said that these people must be bound to what?
Labor.
To labor. Read on.
If they do not voluntarily engage therein.
He says if you don't volunteer for labor, we're going to force you to labor. You must be bound to labor. Read on.
In absolving them from the yoke of slavery, we must not forget the interest of society. Those interests require the exertions of every individual in some mode or other.
Right here. Read down here. Revolutionary champions.
Revolutionary champions of liberty who acquiesced in the continued slavery of black labor did not so only because of racial prejudice, but also because they shared with Tucker a distrust of the poor that was inherent in 18th century conceptions of Republican liberty.
So they took European models to form the Constitution. And they said that because in Europe, the poor become robbers, thieves, murderers, and criminals, we're not going to have that in America. So we're not going to give you freedom so that you don't become what Europe has become. Read on right here.
It says their historical guidebooks had made them fear to enlarge the free labor force.
So instead of freeing the slaves, the forefathers was using European models to enlarge the what?
Free labor force.
The free labor force. So if you understand what's being read, is that the founding fathers of America had no plans of setting you free. Matter of fact, they had plans on keeping you bound as a slave in America. This was their ideals. This was their conception. You was to forever be a slave in America. And your condition was to never change. This is what Thomas Jefferson believed. This is what George Washington believed. This is what James Madison believed.
It's the heroes of America.
Yeah, these are the heroes of America. They had no intention of letting you go free. Not only because they were racist, but because they feared that when they did let you go, you would become idle and you would become criminals. And you would be averse to work. You wouldn't go to work every day. That's how they looked at you. Read this right here. Read John Locke, because he was also a writer who framed certain elements of thought. Go ahead.
John Locke, the classic explicator of the right of revolution for the protection of liberty,
Go ahead.
did not think about extending that right to the landless poor.
He said when they were coming up with the Constitution, they didn't want blacks, they didn't want the poor. That had nothing to do with you. Everybody wants to assume this American identity when that wasn't supposed to be your identity anyway. You call yourself African Americans for what? Mexican Americans for what? This place wasn't for you. It was for your captivity. Wasn't made for your freedom. Wasn't made for you to have rights and to come out of your conditions. They wrote up the Constitution and drafted it on the ideals that you should forever be a slave. Read.
Instead, he concocted a scheme of compulsory labor for them and their children.
He says, I have an idea. I have a scheme to lock down the parents and to lock down the children.
Wow. And their children.
Yep. Read on.
It says the children were to begin at the age of 3 in public institutions.
It says we're going to put these kids in a public institution at the age of 3. Kindergarten, preschool. We're going to start breaking them and working on their minds at 3 years old. Getting ready to become this permanent labor force. Read on.
Called working schools.
They were called what?
Working schools.
What's the difference from a working school to a trade school? This is in the 1700s. What's the difference from a trade school from a working school?
You're training how to do the job. You're not actually hands-on yet.
You're not even training on how to own the job. You're just training on how to do a job. This is what their plan was in the 1700s. Read on.
It says, called working schools because the only subject taught would be work.
Oh, man.
Read on.
Spinning and knitting.
Spinning and knitting. Go ahead.
They would be paid in bread and water and grow up inured to work.
And accustomed to work. Go ahead.
Meanwhile, the mothers, thus relieved of the care of their offspring.
So now we take away the responsibility of having the mother have to be there with the children all day, every day. So the mother doesn't have to be attached to the child every day. We got something for the kids. We got labor for the kids. We got free slave perpetual labor for the children. And because now we got something for the kids to do, they can go to school now. That's why you got so many parents can't wait till the summertime comes. Or can't wait till summer's over. I can't wait till y'all go back to school. This ideal was created.
Wow.
To put your kids in school from the jump. Working schools. You got parents be like, I can't, y'all eat up all the food and I can't wait till y'all go back to school. This was a plan. Read on.
It says, meanwhile, the mothers were thus relieved of the care of their offspring could go to work.
And now that the mothers are free from having to be there next to their children, we can let the mothers go back and do what?
Go to work beside their fathers and husbands.
So the idea was to always keep you at work. That's why that's why the mother works, the father works, and the kids be at school. This was a plan put in action 300 years ago. And has it not manifested? Or who's watching the kids? Grandma, grandpa, and some school. Some working school.
That's crazy.
While in their culture, in our enemy's culture, they're stay-at-home moms. She's there. She's the soccer mom. She gets to spend time with the kids all day. She gets to teach them how to read, how to write, homeschooling them. They're with mom all day. They get constant nurturing. While you gotta try to put band-aids on your kids' problems because you don't have enough time to be there with them to learn how to read and write. So you put band-aids on their problems. You got like 30 minutes to go over their homework, help them read, help them study, and you're so damn tired because you've been at work all day.
God.
You don't even feel like giving it to your kids because you tired all day because you've been at work all day. This was a system set up. And the whole system set up was designed for you to go to work. And so you can be detached from your family. And they understand as long as you detach from your family, you're just a servant. And there will be instability. Who cares if there's instability from a family? Long as them kids get ready to work at 3 years old, and as long as these parents, the mother and father is at work all day, who cares about the breakdown of the family household? Obviously, the forefathers didn't. What I'm saying is they knew this already. They didn't care about jeopardizing your household. Read on.
It says, if they could not find regular employment, then they too could be sent to the working school.
So if they couldn't find regular employment, they too could be sent to where?
Working school.
So the only options in America was what? Working schools. Read on.
It requires some refinement of mind to discern precisely how this version of women's liberation from child care differed from outright slavery.
It says it has to take a very acute sense of discretion. That means you have to be very sharp to understand their enemy's plans. Because what you don't understand is that the system that they created for us in America, which we still live by and abide by today and uphold, it really differed nothing from what? Slavery. It was no different. And it was designed so that you didn't even know the difference. You thought you was getting a break from the kids because you had a job. And you were able to bring home an extra source of income, so you thought it was a break.
Huh.
You thought it was a vacation. You didn't realize that there will be a meltdown in your households and your children would suffer. And it was all part of a plan. Read on.
It requires some refinement of mind to discern precisely how this version of women's liberation from child care differed from outright slavery. And many of Locke's intellectual successors, while denouncing slavery in the abstract, openly preferred slavery to freedom of the lower ranks of laborers.
They said that, you know what, we'll say that we want to abolish slavery. He says out in the open.
But openly preferred slavery to freedom.
He says, but openly preferred slavery to what?
To freedom.
He says, we'll say slavery is illegal. We'll say it's illegal and it should be illegal. But we prefer slavery over what?
Freedom.
Over letting you go for free. Letting you go free. We'll denounce slavery, but reinforce it at the same time. He says that's the acuteness and the sharpness of our enemy. You have to understand what role you played in America. Read on.
It says Adam Ferguson, whose work were rightly read in America, attributed the overthrow of the Roman Republic.
He says the Europeans wrote that Rome fell because of what?
It said he attributed the overthrow of the Roman Republic, in part at least, to the emancipation of slaves, who increased by their numbers and their vices. The weight of that drag, which in great and prosperous cities ever sinks by the tendency of vice and misconduct to the lower condition.
So he says the forefathers were readers of European history, especially those that blamed the fall of Rome on the releasing of the slaves.
That's crazy. Right?
So the forefathers understood that releasing the slaves, releasing your foreparents, could be detrimental to the republic. So the idea was to never release you.
That killed every conspiracy theory.
Read this right here. We're gonna finish it up. Just read this right here. Last part of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
James Burr. James Burr, whose political disquisitions
was a book. It was a set of writings by a guy named James Burr. Go ahead.
earned the praises of many American revolutions.
It says he earned the praise of many American revolutionists. That was Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, George Washington. He says they praised this guy for the way he thought. So how did he think? Go ahead.
Proposed to set a press gangs. Propose a set of press gangs.
He says we have to set up a press gang, which is like the FBI is set up, like you have a task force, so to speak. Like you have a gang task force. You have like every hip hop artist knows that there's actually federal agents following, and they're assigned to every single rapper that makes music. There's an entire bureau of hip hop police that follow rappers, that follow actors, musicians, that follow artists. He set up these task force. Go ahead.
To seize all idle and disorderly persons.
He says the forefathers loved this guy's thoughts that if a person is disorderly, if they're not working, they should be put in slavery. But how? Go ahead.
Who have been there 3 times complained.
He says, and if you've been convicted 3 times, go ahead.
Of before a magistrate.
And you've been before a judge 3 times, go ahead.
To set them to work during a certain time.
Go ahead.
For the benefit of great trading or manufacturing companies.
And etc., right?
Etc.
This was the groundwork to the 3 strikes and you're out in California. Ross Perot made that? That 3 strikes you out? I know that was big in California. You go before a judge, you go 3 felonies, and you got 25 years in prison. So the 3 strikes rule wasn't just made in the 80s during the Reagan era or the 90s with Ross Perot. That 3 strikes you out rule was created in the 1700s. That was the groundwork of the 3 strikes you out legislation that the Clintons passed. That groundwork was laid 200 years ago, 300 years ago. That's not nothing new. So the idea of that you come before a magistrate 3 times, that means that there's no chance for you to change. You're not going to change. We might as well put you in a position where you could be better off for manufacturing companies, etc. That's why there's so much interest in companies for privatized prisons, because in privatized prisons you have free slave labor. This was the plan laid out by the forefathers.
They didn't say this in school.
Hell
They
no.
didn't say, hey, if you're a little kid, hey, we got something to show you. These are heroes that shot down the cherry tree.
Yeah.
And
George Washington cut down.
he said, I cannot tell a lie.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't put that in the writings that we're supposed to learn.
They didn't put in these writings what their plan was for you. Their plan was for you to never be free. And if you was a troublesome individual to the republic and you had come before a judge 3 times, you would be put into a prison situation. That's enough from that. That's enough from that. So now I wanted to bring this out because I wanted to show what has been laid down as far as a future for us as a people. What has been the plan for our enemy? Now go back to where he was at in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 12 and read verse Isaiah 42 and 22.
Isaiah chapter 42, verse 22. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes.
He says, from the beginning, the foundation of us being in America was a trap. What the forefathers laid down in the Constitution was not meant for us. Labor was meant for us. Prison was meant for us. Work was meant for us. Go ahead.
It says, they are hid in prison houses.
Hid. You hid in prison.
They get lost.
You get lost in the system. The idea is to keep you lost in the system. There are, in cities where there's low classes of people that suffer from poor education, old books, no computers, no training aids. They have old equipment. The education is poor. No technology, no nothing, no innovation coming out of it. In those cities that have the worst schools, the worst neighborhoods, the most broke down houses, and the most crimes, have the newest technologically advanced prison systems.
Wow.
How is that possible? How is it that the prison is more advanced than the school? You got high-tech prisons in poor cities, but you got poor schools and hospitals.
It's crazy.
But you got technology. You got state-of-the-art technology in the prison system. So where is the investment at? Where is the investment? The idea is to show that our enemies never had an intention of success for us. Never. Read on.
It says, they are for a prey.
Therefore what?
Prey.
And that's why the stop and frisk rule is made for who? It's made for us. Stop and frisk. You look Hispanic in Arizona, without probable cause, you get pulled over and shook down and asked if you're an immigrant. That was made for us. 3-strike rule, that was made for us. War on drugs, giving petty crimes stronger prison sentences, maximum sentences, that was made for us. That perpetuates labor. They figure in America, what's good for the republic is for you not to be on the street. You're not going to do nothing anyway. So we might as well use you as a labor force to keep the republic going. Yeah. Read on.
And none delivereth.
And none what?
Delivereth.
Is any legislation really trying to let us go as a people? No. Read on.
It says, for a spoil, and none saith, restore.
And nobody in America is trying to restore the estate of our people, but to perpetuate what's been laid down by hypocritical forefathers who had no plan on ever letting us go. Ever. Yes.
One scripture on what you're saying.
Come.
Micah chapter 2, verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest.
He said, this is not what?
Your rest.
This is not our rest. But you got too many people trying to get comfortable in America. It's not intended. Titus chapter 2, verse 1. No, I understand. For she will pollute you, right? Go ahead and finish it.
It says, this is not your rest, because it is polluted.
Go ahead.
It shall destroy you.
It shall what?
Destroy you, even with the sword destruction.
And this is why black Harvard professors get pulled over and arrested.
Yeah.
For
they don't like it. Be mad as hell. Huh?
They be mad as hell. Because they've elevated themselves up in a society that they can't escape their blackness from.
I live here.
I live here. This is my house.
I went to Harvard.
Sir, I need you to put your hands behind your back.
This is my family. These pictures.
That lady district attorney got pulled over.
Yeah, got pulled over. Driving while black is a real thing. But he said, no matter how our people try to create comfort in America, it's not made for us. It was made as a place of captivity. But read Titus chapter 2 verse 1.
Titus chapter 2 verse 1. But speak thou the things which become sound doctrine.
And so now we got to reteach and re-educate our children. This is why we have a huge uphill battle to climb as a nation of people. We have a large hole to dig ourselves out of that initially we put ourselves in due to our rebellion in the first place. Cut that AC on for me. He said, but teach the things that become what?
Sound doctrine.
So now we got to get away from the American dream and start giving our children the scriptures. You got to start reinstituting and retraining your mind, man. We got to look at the truth about our conditions here, of what their intentions are here. Read on.
That the aged men be sober.
It says our aged brothers got to be what?
Sober.
Go ahead.
Grave, temperate, sound in faith, in charity, in patience.
And this is what it's going to take to reverse the curses. Read on.
The aged woman likewise, that they be in behavior as becometh holiness.
Go ahead. Our women got to stop taking their clothes off, showing body parts, and they got to start doing things that become holiness, that look like respectable women. Because the you may gain some attention and notoriety and some likes and some cash sent to you from some cornball, but you're not elevating the nation that way. By you being naked, you showing your goods on the internet, on Instagram, is not elevating our society. By brothers trying to work their way up the political ladder, is not elevating our people and our culture. Read.
Not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things.
Now we got to climb out of a hole. We got to restructure and recalibrate our mind frame, especially being the children of broken homes here in America, who've endured the curses. Read on.
Verse 4. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children.
And so now it has to start where?
In the house.
The changes that we have to start with is in our households. It starts in our marriages. It starts in our relationships. It starts in how we raise our children. The change has to start from our own individual houses. Until Christ comes back, we have to do everything to implement a structure, a sound structure, with true doctrine. Not just go get a job. Not just make sure you got a trade or you go to a trade school. That's not sound doctrine. Getting understanding is sound doctrine. Learning how to fear the Most High is sound doctrine. Go to and discipline our children is sound doctrine. Training our children up. Ecclesiastes chapter 30 verse 1.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 30 verse 1.
Read that.
It says, he that loveth his son causeth him oft to feel the rod.
So now if you love your children, if you love your family, what are you going to do with your family?
Correct.
You're going to correct them. We have to make a lot of corrections. Not just the corrections put on by our enemies, but the correction of what the result is from disbanding and breaking away from the Most High. Growing up in darkness. He said if you love your children, you'll do what? Yeah, wow, you read? Read.
It says that he may have joy of him in the end.
So if our children are going to have hope, what do we need to do in our households? Correct the children. You gotta establish discipline. Read on.
Verse 2. He that chastiseth his son shall have joy in him.
Somebody give me a Proverbs chapter 19 verse 18.
Proverbs chapter 19 verse 18. Chasten thy son while there is hope.
It says you got to do what with your children?
Chasten thy son while there is hope.
So you got to train your children up as much as possible, because it's been destined and written in chronicles of history by the forefathers of America to have work just set up at the age of 3 years old for your children. If they were allowed to be free, they must be put to work. So other than just teaching them how to work a job, you have to train your children how to make good moral decisions, how to make spiritual decisions, how to conduct yourself with some type of holiness. Read on.
and let not thy soul spare for his crime.
And don't just listen to the cries. You got to start from the household. That means you, as a man, if I want to change my nation, I have to change it in my household before I even go outside and look at anybody else's household. I got to change my household first. I got to restructure my home first. This is how you break the curses that's been set up for us to fail by the nations that have us in captivity. You fix your home. And this breaks them from having to be a pawn to some foster care system or some labor force. Read. Go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 30.
Ecclesiastes chapter 30 and you want 2 now?
Verse 2.
Verse 2.
Stay in Proverbs though.
He that chastises his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance.
If there's any future, any hope for our children, then we gotta make changes now to raise them up the right way while they're young. He says while there is still hope. Give me Proverbs chapter 22 verse 15.
Proverbs chapter 22 verse 15. Foolishness is bound in the heart of a child.
It says kids gonna be kids. They're gonna do crazy things. But if you don't want your kids in the system, you don't want your kids in the prison house, you don't want your kid in some labor force. He said you got to train them up. Go ahead, because they'll be victims of America, like we were damn victims of America, with no hope. Either the penitentiary or death is all that was waiting for us.
True.
Most brothers didn't have a lifespan past 21 years old. Wasn't expected to live past 21. So if there's any hope for our children, you gotta start now. You gotta start early. Read on.
But the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. He that oppresseth the poor.
And that's it. Go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 30 verse 2 again.
Ecclesiastes chapter 30 verse 2. He that chastiseth his son shall have joy in him, and shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance.
You know what? He won't become another prison number.
That's something to rejoice about.
Yeah, holding up that damn prison number, putting his face to the side. It ain't gonna kill him. You know what? A lot of times we think if we discipline our children, that we're gonna be overboard. There's a fear that you're gonna be overboard. Go to Proverbs chapter 23 verse 13.
Proverbs chapter 23 verse 13. Withhold not correction from the child.
It says what?
Withhold not correction from the child.
Man, there's a lot of things set up for our children to fail, for us to fail in America. You got to start from the household. It said, withhold not what?
Correction from the child.
Read on.
For if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die.
Whoop your kids, but don't kill them. But put some discipline on them.
Come.
Read on. Don't let your kids just say and do anything. Read on.
Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and thou shalt deliver his soul from hell.
Yeah.
My son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine.
Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 24.
Verse 24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son.
If I don't discipline my child, then what does the Bible say? I hate my son. And you know what? There's systems already created for my son to fall into if I don't raise my child right. There's already systems that have already been preordained in this culture from 200, 300 years ago that's waiting for them to fall into if you don't raise your sons right.
They'll be happy to take them.
Workhouses.
They'll be happy to take them, huh?
Yep. Read that again.
Proverbs 13 and 24. He that spareth his rod hateth his son.
Man, that's why if you love your children, train them, raise them, teach them, educate them, discipline them. Put as much influence as you can into your children. Remember, it was designed by the forefathers so that you could just go to work and for you to think that you being away from home was a vacation, was a break. While your children are left to have to fend for themselves and figure things out on their own. Go ahead.
But he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes.
Chasten them betimes. Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1.
Ephesians chapter 6 verse 1. Whenever you're ready.
Read that.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. It says, children, obey your parents in the Lord.
It says children do what?
Obey your parents in the Lord.
So the family structure has to be redone. Parents gotta discipline their children, and children gotta follow their parents' instruction. Read.
For this is right.
It said because this is what's gonna get us right. We have to recorrect the household. You can't have your kids talking back to you and beating you up and putting hands on you. If you don't deal with them early, they will be doing that. They're gonna be telling you what to do. Matter of fact, but keep reading.
Verse 2. Honor thy father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise,
Go ahead.
that it may be well with thee, and thou mayest live long on the earth.
And this is how we're going to reestablish ourselves back as a nation of people. The parents got to be showing discipline to the children, educating and training the children. The children got to be in order with their parents. This is how you fix the nation that's broken. This is how you recover us out of slavery. This is how you reverse the curses. Read on.
It says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath.
Don't tear them down because they can't do something right or they make a mistake. Don't beat them down and kill their motivation. Or they lose inspiration to do something. If they want to learn how to do something, train them, teach them. Give them an opportunity. But don't tear them down for them when they make a mistake.
True.
Mistakes is part of growth. Read on.
But bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, or admonition of the Lord. Servants, be obedient.
It says, but do what?
It says, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
That admonition means gentle reproof or counseling against a fault. More than, you're not just supposed to beat. You're supposed to beat. But along with beating, you're supposed to do what?
Admonition.
You're supposed to counsel them. The problem is, we rather just beat so we can get back to our scheduled programming and finish our movie or finish our show or finish whatever we were doing being on the phone. We'd rather whoop them real quick.
It's like an hour talk before
Yeah.
the beating, and then 2 hours of talking after.
Hey, don't you know the beating, the lecturing sometimes is worse than the actual beating.
Right?
You would rather just get the beating. If you had good parents, they would thoroughly explain to you exactly what they're about to do to you and why.
About to fall asleep.
And you know what? You just be like, Lennon, just get this over with, man. Just go ahead and whoop me so I can go back and do what I was doing. And then you can go back to doing whatever you was doing. Just spank me and let's get it over with. But the build-up is the worst part. But you know what? It's almost like, it's like you are, that way the knowledge of what they're doing is so embedded in them. They already understand, like, man, I bet not do this, not just because of the whooping, because I don't want to hear this all day and all night. I don't want to hear this person attacking me and explaining to me at a snail's pace
6 hours.
why I can't do this. That's hell to a kid. A kid want to detach. They want to pull their hair out. They want to jump off the damn porch.
Don't act like you ain't listening.
Yeah, don't act like you ain't listen. Stand up. Now you got to stand up. Now you got to stand up and listen.
Now you're getting threatened.
Then it's like, damn, get this over with, please. But you know what? Some kids, they just like, man, just whoop me. But that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not just supposed to whoop to your kids. He said you're supposed to raise them up in the what?
In the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
It's an admonition,
Wow.
gentle reproof, counseling against a fault, instruction and
Wow.
duties. Don't just beat your kids, because the scriptures say beat your kids. Our parents misread the scriptures.
Overboard.
They just beat us and sit us in our rooms and close the door and go to sleep. Turn the light off and go to bed. Cry yourself to sleep.
Kitchen when you
But then they come back and say, "Did you learn your lesson?" That's what a parent says after they whoop. Did you learn your lesson? You gonna do it again? I bet you won't do it again. They don't explain the rights and the wrong because you know what? They're tired because they've been at work all day.
True.
Because they got to do other things. They got to get dinner ready and wash clothes. They don't got time to explain.
Nope.
But if you want to be a good parent, you want to reverse these damn curses. You got to explain to your children exactly what they did and why they can't do that again. And why is it wrong not only in your household, but why is it wrong in the eyes of the Most High? This is how you solidify your children. Because the curse is against us, man. We're destined to fall and being in the hands of our enemies, especially being detached from this Bible. Our children, our nation really ain't got a chance. But you're the chance that they have. You're the only chance that your children got. Especially when you know the truth. You're the only hope. If not, there's already something set up for them to fail. Read on.
Verse 5. Servants, be obedient to them that are your masters according to the flesh, with fear and trembling.
Hold on. In Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13, real quick.
Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13. But exhort one another daily.
It says children, they need to be exhorted how often?
Daily.
Children, not just children, people have to, adults, they have to be exhorted daily. They have to be incited to, or motivated to do something. Propelled. They need that. Children need constant attention for development. You got to tell them you're doing good. You're doing great. Why just give them attention when they act up?
That's true.
That's the lessons that we teach our kids. They only got our attention when they do something bad. So what does that teach a child?
Do something bad.
Do something bad and I'll get what?
Attention.
I'll get attention. I'll get my parents' attention from whatever they got going on in their life. As long as I keep acting up, they'll keep looking at me. As long as I keep acting up, they'll listen to me. As long as I keep acting up, they'll be in front of me. As long as I keep acting up, they'll visit me and spend time with me. Because to a child, even being punished is better than being ignored.
What verse is that? Hebrews chapter 3, verse 13. But exhort one another daily.
But guess what? If you're not exhorting your children, television is.
True.
If you're not exhorting your children, Instagram is. Snapchat is.
TikTok.
TikTok is exhorting your children. If you're not that, just because you're not exhorting them, don't mean they're not getting some type of exhortation.
That's true though.
They gonna get something. They learning. Children are sponges. They soaking up something from somewhere. So whether they have your mind or not, that's up to you. But if you're gonna raise up a nation, it starts with your household, and it starts with how you raise the people in your house. The family structure was part of the curse that the Most High had for us. The breaking down of the family structure. How are you going to correct it? You gotta daily let them know that they're on the right path. Don't just beat them down, browbeat them, curse them out, spank them, and then go back to your world and what your life. You're supposed to motivate them, incite them. You know why Kobe Bryant was so good? Because his father. You know why Tiger Woods was so good and unbeatable? Because of his father. When you look at all these guys that are great and strong, even when Customado was like a father figure to Mike Tyson, he was unbeatable. Anytime you have constant attention and development and focus from a parent, you have a better product in a child. You give the child a better opportunity. But if you got your life and you're not exhorting your children daily, if you're not motivating them and raising them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, you're not counseling them in the right direction, you're not steering them in the right direction, they're going to fail. Because the system is set up for them to fail. It's been written up already. The documents have been written up already of what to do with your kids. Read on.
It says, but exhort one another daily, while it is called today.
Well, so every day you should be doing what with your children?
Exhorting them.
Get the definition of exhorting.
Yeah.
Every day you have to exhort your children. A lot of times people are so tired they don't want to exhort their children. They want to smile, do the courtesies. Hey baby, how was your day? You had a good day at school? Okay. Do you take a shower? You take a bath? Did you eat? Okay. You clean your room? You do your homework? Okay. Good job. No. You give you 30 minutes to watch TV? Go to bed. Exhort.
Exhort. To incite by words or advice.
So now, how do you raise up a child?
Incite by words
Is
or
it
advice.
only just the rod of correction?
Words or advice?
No. The way you raise up a child is not just in how much you spank your kids and beat your kids. It's how often you motivate them through your words and your what?
Advice.
That's your counsel. Your ability to counsel your children has to increase and be better. To where now you're motivating them when you speak to your children. Not to where you're tearing your kids down. Now they don't want to listen to you. They shut off from you. They get to a certain age where they know, okay, you really don't care. You're just telling me to tell me because you're tired of me interrupting you. But you don't really care about my growth. You don't really care about my development. A child will eventually get to that point.
Or they have their own interests and like, you don't support me.
Yeah. You don't support what I like. You're not into what I like. You really don't care. There's a lot involved in parenting than what people think. It takes a lot of conversation. It takes a lot of advice and a lot of counsel. Go ahead.
To console, to counsel, to console, to encourage, strengthen, to call to one side.
You read that definition again, and somebody give me Proverbs chapter 24 verse 16. Give me that definition, that last part again.
To call to one side. That last part.
No.
To console.
To do what?
Console.
Because you know what children do? The scriptures say foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, right?
Yeah.
They're going to make mistakes. But how do you console a child? Proverbs 24:16.
Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. For a just man.
How do you console a child?
For a just man falleth 7 times.
It's okay to fall. You let your kids know, okay, you did that wrong, but that's okay. We're going to try it again.
Come.
You know, a lot of times we don't have the patience to raise children. Patience, kids make mistakes. We take away whatever it is that they have that we don't feel like trying to. You know what? I threw the football you can't catch. I tried. You're not a football player. You know what? Put it down. Try something else.
You're supposed to develop the throw, man.
You know what I'm saying? But we don't have the patience to watch them grow.
It's been 3 weeks. Huh?
Listen, I tried. You didn't listen. Put it down. You know how Floyd Mayweather's a billionaire? Because of who?
His father.
Because of his father and his uncle.
And his uncle. Yeah.
Even Venus and Serena.
Venus and Serena. Why they billionaires? Because they fathers. Father was putting them raised them up in Compton, out of a ghetto. Coming out of a ghetto, becoming tennis stars in a sport that black people really don't play.
You gonna play this sport?
But you know what? He supported them, bought them rackets, took them to training, developed them. But a lot of us don't have the patience. You know, when we support our kids, when we see the potential of our children and we exploit them. When we're exploiting our children is when we support them. We support our kids when they're getting exploited. Oh, you know, my baby got a part on ABC Mouse Club.
You get the record deal.
Oh, they get a, you know what I'm saying? Now we exploit the parent. We exploit the children. Now we become their number one fan.
That's my child.
That's my child. You know,
That's my baby.
but you know what's crazy? You have what's that football player where his mom run drills with him? Somebody know who I'm talking about. The football player whose mom she put herself in football pads, and she was training her son, working with her son, and ran drills with him. I forgot, but anyway, but it was encouragement. You have to believe in your children, and to where when they make a mistake doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Read that again.
Proverbs chapter 24, verse 16. For a just man falleth 7 times.
Go ahead.
And riseth up again.
Now get that definition of exhort. That last part again.
To console, to encourage, strengthen, comfort, to call to one side in way of exhortation.
And this is how you raise a child up. You let them know that they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. but you can recover from your mistakes. I'm gonna show you how to overcome your mistakes, your flaws, your errors, the things that you're not good at. I'm gonna keep pushing you and motivating you to keep trying, not to kill your abilities by tearing you down and saying, well, you ain't good at that, so you ain't no good. Just because we don't have the patience. Children need that.
Or you're inconvenienced.
Right, or we're inconvenienced. 1 Corinthians 14 and 3.
1 Corinthians 14 and 3. But he that prophesied speaketh unto men to edification.
It says when you speak to people, when you're talking to anybody, it says anytime you open your mouth, whether it's to people, but especially to children, it's supposed to be for the purpose of what?
Edification.
Edification, go ahead.
And exhortation.
And what else?
And comfort.
And comfort. Which was to exhort, right?
God.
To give them comfort or to console them. So every time I speak, my intention, when I deal with my children, is to raise them up, to develop them, and to console them, and to strengthen them, and to motivate them. This is my speech. This is how I deal with my children. Go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 30.
What verse?
Ecclesiastes chapter 30, verse 3.
Okay. Ecclesiastes chapter 30, verse 3. It says, he that teacheth his son.
And so this is why in raising up a child, you have to do what?
Teach.
You have to teach, man. You got to keep teach. This is how you reverse these curses. You got to teach your children. As a nation, this is how we go. This is what the Most High's expectation for us. Until Christ returns, we got to be in development mode. We have to build. We have to be in nation building mode. We have to start investing into our children, and because our children is our nation. That's the future. We don't know when Christ's gonna come back. But just because I'm an Israelite doesn't mean my parenting has to lack. It actually should increase. The work of Christ shouldn't keep you from children. You still got a job to do. You got to bear your cross. If you have children, you still got to do the work of Christ, and you still got to develop. That's a very tasking task. That's very hard. There's a lot of task involved. It's taxing on the mind. It's fatiguing. But if you want to build your people back up, you got to start with your household. You got to teach your children. Read on.
He that teacheth his son grieveth the enemy.
The enemy was who? Who we just read about who already had a plan set up for our children in our households?
That was the made the Constitution.
The ones that made the Constitution, the founding forefathers, Jefferson, Washington, Madison,
John Locke,
Locke, which was a powerful writer, orator of influence on what to do with these slaves, how they must not receive freedom. It says this is how you grieve the enemy. They didn't have a plan for your children. They did. It was for them to forever be slaves. How are you going to grieve the enemy then? When you teach your children, you elevate them so that your children don't fall into those holes, into those traps set up by society for them to fall into, to becoming some working class individual strictly made for the benefit of the republic. That's how you grieve the enemy. You develop your children. Read on.
And shall rejoice of him among his acquaintance.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it says, he that teaches son grieve the enemy, and before his friends he shall rejoice of him. Though his father die.
And you know what? You have to be in the mind frame of, I got to keep teaching until I what?
Die.
Until I die. I got to keep developing my child until I'm gone. Read on.
Yet he is as though he were not dead.
And if I invest so much into my children, even when I do die, it's going to be as though I what?
We're not dead.
How? How is it that I still live even though I'm dead? I'm living through my children. That's how you keep your posterity going. That's how you maintain virtue in your households, strength in your households, discernment and judgment in your households. You keep teaching your household until you die. So that even though you may die and when you die, that discipline is still within the household. You've already formed and fashioned a structure of beliefs in your household to give them prosperity, to stay away from damn vices that's already set up for them to fall in. Pitfalls. Read on.
For he hath left one behind him that is like himself.
And this is how I live on. You live on through your children. So you got to put as much into your children as possible while you're alive. Mm-hmm. And if each and every one of us develop our households, guess what? We look up. We're a nation that thinks the same, that eliminates issues. We stop filling up the prison systems. We stop filling up the jails. The best advice we can give is go to work. That's about as good as we get for our children. What about becoming owners? What about running their own operations? What about becoming institutions that other nations benefit from? What about us becoming the lenders? What about us becoming the banks? What about us becoming the leaders of society? But if we're ever going to have a chance as a nation, it starts at home. Read on.
Verse 5. It says, while he lived, he saw and rejoiced in him. And when he died, he was not sorrowful.
He was not what?
Not sorrowful.
And when I die, if I put enough into my kids, if I die, I won't be what?
Sorrowful.
It won't be a sad thing. You know why? Because I'm living through my children. My children are just like me. They're going to maintain the fear of the Most High. They're going to do the work of the Lord. And as long as they do the work of the Lord, they will be defended by the Most High. The Most High will secure them. Read on.
Verse 6. He left behind him an avenger against his enemies.
You damn right. Now I got somebody that can avenge me from my enemies. Just like David left back Saul and told Saul, when you get in power, eliminate my enemies.
You told Solomon.
Solomon. He told Solomon, eliminate my enemies and take out my enemies. Read on.
It says, and one that shall requite kindness to his friends.
And somebody who could be a dependable asset to my friends. Go ahead.
It says, he that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wound.
It says, he that does what?
Maketh too much of his son.
But if I make excuses for my sons or my daughters' mistakes, and I say, oh, you shouldn't be so hard on them. Oh, they shouldn't get whooped for that. Oh, they shouldn't get disciplined for that. Oh, they shouldn't get in trouble for that. Why don't you let it slide? Why don't you give them another chance? Why are you coming down so hard on them? Now you got division in the household because there's a lack of trust. And now I'm making excuses for my child. I'm doing my child a disservice. Read on.
It says, he that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry.
And now I'm going to have to recover. There's a repercussion to making too much of your child, where you don't want to see your child cry, or you don't want to spank them, or I don't want my kid to hate me. Don't you know they're going to hate you if you don't spank them, if you don't discipline them, if you don't correct them, if you don't talk to them, if you don't counsel them, if you don't invest into them? They're going to hate you anyway.
Don't build them, they're going to hate.
They're going to despise you anyway because you didn't put into them. So it's best that they understand that the correction was a form of love. That the speeches was for love and was for development. Read on.
It says, a horse not broken becometh headstrong.
And what happens if you try to protect your child from getting corrected when they make mistakes? They're going to become what?
Headstrong.
They're going to become headstrong. Read on.
And a child left to himself will be willful.
Read on.
Cocker or cocker?
Cocker.
Cocker thy child.
Cocker means to spoil or to pamper. To pamper in particular. If you pamper your child, being too tender on a child and won't discipline them. That's what cocker means. Cocker means to pamper, to be delicate with. Go ahead.
It says, and he shall make thee afraid.
He says, if you pamper your child, you won't develop fear into your child. And your child will get to the point where they're telling you what to do. They're telling you what to do. You pamper them, you can't tell them nothing later. They're telling you what they're not going to do. Because you didn't put no fear into them. You didn't put no discipline into them. Now they have no respect for your words. Now what happens is what? Oh, don't make me call your dad. But that's about the biggest damn. You got two weapons. You got your dad, maybe your uncle, maybe grandpa, and then once that you don't have those, you call the police.
Yep.
And you know what? By the time you got to get to that point where you got to tell your child, don't make me call your dad, it's already too late. They already don't have no respect for you. It's already too late. Because you know what the child knows? So, call him. What is my dad going to do? He ain't here anyway. Ain't that Deuteronomy 28?
Yeah.
If he cared, he would be here. He don't care anyway. What is my dad going to do? Call him. So what? If you hear that, it's too late.
True.
There's been some developmental issues. The child wasn't developed right. The child don't have no fear. The child don't have no respect. Now you gotta threaten your child with the police.
They can't wait. They can't wait.
God,
They can't wait. I remember you.
Yeah, you remember how many parents that watch their kid get shot by the cops and screaming? There's videos on it. You can watch it. Pull it up. There's videos on it. When a parent calls the cops and the parent thinks that the cops going to be about justice and equity and fairness and understanding.
Wow.
Cops show up, kid got a knife in his hand, shoot him down, and then the parents say, "What are you doing? I thought you were going to talk to him." No, he was a threat. He had a knife in his hand. He had something in his hand. He wouldn't put his hands down. We didn't know what he had in his hand. Cops show up, terminate the child right in front of the parent. This is what happens to us all the time. You know it happens to us. Because the Caucasian could shoot up a whole movie theater and he'll still come in handcuffs.
With a bulletproof vest.
And he'll still stand trial. You call the cops for a domestic dispute, and and the coroner's hauling off your baby with a sheet covering them up. Because there's been some developmental issues as far as how the child was raised. It's too late by then. Read on.
So conquer thy child, and he shall make thee afraid.
I'm a cosign. I'm a cosign with my child's negative. Well, I understand. You should understand why my kid does drugs. Yeah. You did drugs. You did drugs too. Why are you condemning him? It ain't like you were perfect. You made mistakes. So now the kid is smoking and drinking with the parents.
That happens a lot.
Now the kid is telling the parents, "Hey, go buy me a pack of smokes, or you got a cigarette on you, or hey, we gonna roll one up together.
You got a Philly?
We gonna roll one up."
God.
Now the parent is doing drugs or the child doing drugs with the parents, because I'm now co-signing negative.
God.
Or the child is doing drugs in the house because I'm co-signing negative.
God.
He's gonna do it anyways.
He gonna do it anyway. So might as well do it at home. Now you're gonna co-sign the negative. He don't know. Right is right. Get the hell out of my house. You ain't gonna do that in here. Why you acting like that? You were young too. And then the parents like, well, we should understand he's going through a phase. Phase? He about to catch a fade.
Yeah.
Man, he said, conquer thy child and do what?
It says, and he shall make thee afraid.
He said, make thee afraid. Go ahead.
Play with him.
You play with him too much. Go ahead.
And he
Now you look at your children like these are my friends. Not your friend. I'm your mother. I'm your father. Play with them like we playing. We enjoy it. We think on the same level.
Come.
You play with them now. The child thinks that they can talk to you any kind of way.
Come.
I can treat you any kind of way, and you wonder why you're getting disrespected. Read.
play with him, and he will bring thee to heaviness.
And he gonna bring you to heaviness.
Come.
How does the Most High look at it? Hebrews chapter 12 verse 6.
Hebrews chapter 12, verse 6.
Read that.
It says, "For whom the Lord loveth."
It says, "For if whom the Most High loveth." This is how the Most High deal with us. If He love us, go ahead.
"He chasteneth and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth."
Is the Most High gonna play with you?
No.
Did the Most High play with His own Son?
No.
Did the Most High play with Christ?
Nah.
Did the Most High co-sign His negative?
No.
No. He don't. He said, "Whom the Lord loveth, He does what?"
Chasteneth
Read on.
and scourgeth
Go ahead.
every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, the Most High dealeth with you as with sons.
And the problem is, a lot of parents don't trust this process because there's a fear that you're going to be overboard when you do it. You're going to be extreme. You're going to hurt the child's feelings.
Come.
Or the child's going to hate you later. No, they're not. They're going to love you later because you cared. Because you talked to them. You raised them up. You exhorted them. You showed them admonition. You nurtured them. You counseled them. You gave them advice. You put into them. You gave them attention. Read on.
For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not?
And it said, go ahead.
It says, "But if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then ye are bastards."
Then you're bastards. Who does the Most High consider a bastard? Go to Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 12. Why would the Most High say that a person without chastisement is a bastard?
Ecclesiastes chapter 2 and verse 12.
Or somebody that doesn't believe that you should whoop your children.
Come.
Or you should invest into your children. Discipline your children. Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 12. Go ahead.
Woe be to fearful hearts.
It says, woe be to what?
Fearful hearts.
So I don't want to implement what the Most High said as the scriptures into my household. Because I'm afraid that the kid is going to hate me later. I want to be the good parent. I don't want to be looking like the bad guy. I don't trust the process. But he says, for those that don't trust this process that the Most High is explaining, of the level of investment that it takes to put into your children, to raise them up right, he says, woe, which is destruction to the what?
Fearful hearts.
Read on.
And faint hands.
Go ahead. They won't discipline their children. They won't invest into their children. Both in nurture, exhortation, and in discipline. And in correction. I want to be on a friendly level with my kids. I want to be able to talk to my kids and be open about everything. Well, you know what? You still can. But you can still whoop them too. You can still talk to them too. Read on.
And the sinner that goeth 2 ways.
It said, and the sinner that goes what?
2 ways.
I don't really agree with the process. Read on.
Woe unto him that is faint-hearted,
Go ahead.
for he believeth not.
Because what's the problem with this parent?
He believeth not.
So the parents that raised bastard children are parents that didn't what?
Believe not.
They didn't believe in the process of what it takes to raise a child. Read on.
Therefore shall he not be defended.
And when that child is ready to kick your butt, the Most High ain't standing up for you. Now the parent is telling you what to do. Say again.
The child.
Yeah, now the child is telling you what to do. I'm not the parent, the child. The child is telling you what to do. They're running you in the house. They're giving you orders. And the Most High is not going to what?
Defend you.
He's not going to defend you. Because you didn't trust this process. Because you know what? My parents were hard on me, so I don't want to be hard on my kids. I'm gonna give them whatever they ask for.
Even with
I'm gonna buy their love. I'm gonna buy their love with money. I'm gonna buy them whatever they want. And then you got a kid that you can't control. You got a kid that don't respect you because you wanted to raise your child up the way you wanted to raise your child. Then you mad and you can't do nothing about it.
Then when you get older, they don't want to come and visit. They don't want to help out. You're gonna need them eventually to be in the right spirit. You get older, they don't want to. They be debating, and you help. I did last time. I ain't finna do it today.
I ain't gonna do it. I fed them. I clothed them. I did my job. No, you didn't. That's what we think our job is. I fed my kids. I clothed my kids. I did my job. I gave them a house to live in, a bed to sleep on. I fed them. I did my job. I thought I did my job. There's more to rearing up and raising up children than just putting clothes on their back or food on the table.
True.
They require attention and development, exhortation, motivation, incitement.
It's crazy.
That's how you grieve the enemy. The better you are as a parent destroys the systems that was created for us to fail. There wouldn't be no foster care need, unless, you know what I'm saying? There wouldn't be as much of a jail, detention center, youth detention centers,
Right. Right.
boys homes, girls homes,
And they look like they're doing so much good. Like we're doing so good for
so
this,
much charity.
These low life people. We're helping these low lives.
Right. But the better you are as a parent, they're out of a job. The better you are as a parent, you raise better children, there's no need for a substantial weaponized police force.
Wow.
There's no need for a state-of-the-art prison because your kids ain't going in there. So you destroy the systems that are in place for us to fail. When you make yourself a better parent and you trust the process of what the Most High is explaining of what it takes to raise a child. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 16 verse 26.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 16 verse 26. It says, that thy children, O Lord, whom thou lovest, mightest know that it was not the growing of the fruits that nourished man.
It wasn't the fact that you put a plate in front of them every day. Because that's what a lot of parents want to say. I fed you. I clothed you. I housed you. I took care of you. How can you be disrespectful? I put money in your pocket. I bought you clothes. I did everything that I could do as a parent that I knew how to raise you up the right way. But what does the scripture say?
That the children, O Lord, whom thou lovest, mightest know.
But there's something else that we got to understand. Go ahead.
That it is not the growing of fruits that nourisheth man.
It's not that the fact that you took care of your physical needs of the child that nourished man. Go ahead.
But that it is thy word.
It's the what?
Thy word.
What do your kids need?
Thy word.
Go ahead.
Which preserveth them.
Which will do what?
Preserveth them.
Go ahead.
That put trust in thee.
So
put their trust in thee.
So is being a parent just feeding a child, taking care of their physical needs, or teaching your children the word of the Most High? That's what's going to preserve them. This is how you break all the systems that was created by the founding fathers of America for your children to fall into as options and choices of sustaining the republic. So with that, we're going to go ahead and say shalom. And it's already 10:11. But there's another part to this, but we'll finish it later. All right. So with that, we're going to say shalom.
Shalom.
We're done? This is the last
Shalom, Israel.
one. This is the last one.
Read that last.